I come back.
So, how are things in Switzerland? Are the pension schemes and stuff like that holding up there? Or are they just collapsing there too?
Say again. Say again.
Are like the pension schemes, like the different welfare schemes in Switzerland, are they holding up, or is it um, more difficult to are the pensions getting less? Can you live
Okay,
off
maybe
like
I'm not the
the
best person to be asked this because I'm. How can I say? I'm not as affected by this as maybe other people. But as you said, in Switzerland, in general, there is a problem in the workforce. There's a problem in housing. In general, Switzerland is expensive, but people are, just living because as it's expensive, you can have high salaries. So
Yeah, I hear that
that's what I.
average salary in Switzerland is about 6,000 euros. Is that true?
Yeah, it's good. It's good salary, but it's so expensive that you cannot. For some people, as you said, if you don't have good housing or you wouldn't feel the difference. It's probably like how can I give you an example? But yeah, if you have even if you could have good salary, but in general life is expensive, so it's just to make the balance uh, work. I don't know if you understand my point, but.
Sure.
Mhm. How is it in Norway, by the way? Norway is also expensive.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. It's getting worse. Our minister of labor and inclusion said that the smallest the average pension in the future will essentially be smaller than the smallest pension today, right? Um,
Mm.
so from how I'm seeing things, it looks like most of the welfare schemes that exist in Europe today will probably not exist in 30 or 50 years time because they won't be maintainable unless there's significant automation, I guess.
How?
Oh, so for example, automation within farming, where you have automated tractors that plow the fields and plant the vegetables or whatever and harvest them themselves. In terms of production, producing computers or whatever, right? That is what really matters. That you have the same levels of production in the future as today. So if we can keep up levels of production, then you can kind of make sure that you have the same level of care. But if production decreases, and I think it will, because there will be less people working, um, there's no way
People
that we
already
can.
don't wanna work. That's a problem.
Yeah, I do think that I don't know. Maybe young people's expectations for jobs today also are something completely different than how it
Mhm.
was 100 or 200 years ago. Like usually 100 or 200 years ago you would just go into whatever trade your father was in or your grandfather, right? So
Yeah.
if your grandfather was a smith, you'd be a smith, right? Or if he was a baker, you'd be a baker.
Mhm. Yep.
So yeah, people knew who they were and what their role were in the economy and what they were going to produce because they just produced the same thing as their ancestors did. Um,
Do you
yeah.
think capitalism is a problem?
Well, I think monopolies are a problem. I think generally speaking, oligopolies are good. So, for example, in an average store in Norway, 100 years ago, would maybe have 100 to 300 products. today, average Norwegian store has like 3,000 to 5,000 products. And so when you have larger chains and larger corporations, you have larger distribution chains, and more efficient distribution chains. And that makes prices lower, and it makes that you can have more exotic goods. I think that generally speaking, that is good, and I think big business, generally speaking, is efficient.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I don't, what was that?
I said,
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, you?
I think there is no future with capitalism in general speaking, to be honest. Like on long
Ah.
term. It's a system
Mhm.
that's meant to collapse and it's going to collapse at some point. So, well, like, the way is getting harder and harder for the people.
Well, how I think about things, generally speaking, is that um, the more scarcity you have in a society, I think the more probable it is that you will have a capitalistic system. And the less scarcity you have in a society, the more possible it is for socialism and more redistribution. Like that is generally the trends that we see as well. That like the countries where generally speaking, there is little scarcity, like Norway. There is a great deal of redistribution, and countries with much larger scarcity and much larger economic divides usually have less redistribution. And so, if we go into a future where resources are more scarce, I think that we will probably become more capitalistic and more free market and not less free market. Like when you have welfare schemes.
Don't you think it happening already?
Yeah, I think it's happening already. Like we saw that among other things with like the new public management way in Europe, where governments increasingly privatized different industries like railways, telecom industry, and so on and so forth, um, because essentially they couldn't keep up with the cost. And so I think that in the future, like 30, 50 years from now, many of the institutions that people have been used to and the tasks that people have been used to being taken over by the government will increasingly become privatized. And so I think that we will probably be more capitalistic in the future than we are now.
I don't know. Maybe, perhaps, I think if capitalism have a problem, I don't think the answer is socialism. No,
Socialism is the other way around. So it's the.
it's worse.
I don't know. We have to find a mix in between, but more into like a socialistic way.
Well, I
Fair,
think that
because we
Socialistic,
start.
no. If I'm a
I mean,
business owner, I would prefer capitalism than socialism.
that is true,
well,
Yeah.
but
I
you
think
have
my
you have
society
to
in
see.
Norway is a good mix between socialism and capitalism, right? You have strong unions, you have a great deal of like social engineering, and you have um, a lot of welfare, right? But it doesn't look like the level of welfare um, we have and socialization is like maintainable, right?
No, because economy in general is built on resources. If your resources is finished, then you wouldn't have economy unless you have capital to work with. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
but resources are
that
gonna finish.
automatically means that you're going to leave other people behind. That is, or other countries. There's no point for them to develop, and because you're the stronger power, you will never let them develop the way you develop. So you're always going to live on their costs, technically speaking.
Sure, but like, don't you think that
That's
social
true.
It's an
That's
democracy
true.
it's an
is
it's an unequal system.
is a good mix, or like what do you mean when you say you would like to see a mix between socialism and capitalism?
I don't know. We need we need something. We need more from our social economy stuff. For example, that we can provide certain amount of things. They're not going to be on the free market anymore. I think like housings, for example, like how you viewed it earlier, is not a thing that should be, I don't know, privately owned. To be honest, to a certain amount of extent. I
Well,
think you can have bigger housing situations, but they're based on like what you, I don't know. It's not necessarily needed. I think there is a certain amount of things there necessarily needs for human beings to survive. Housing is one of them. Food is one of them.
sure.
And there's more, but
Sure. I think that I agree with that. I think that housing is something that probably should be regulated. That is what I think. A friend of mine, he proposed that what we have is essentially a progressive property tax, where essentially your property tax get higher and higher the more property you own, and so in this way you could it would be almost impossible for you to um, you know rent out a bunch of property, like you owning for example 50 rentals or something like that. um, there's also like other suggestions, like for example you only being able to own three properties or something like that. But it seems that um, to me at least, that property is valuable, because when people feels that something is their own, they care more about it, and they care more to maintain it. Right? I think that there's a famous experiment of like how people feel about ownership, where one group was given essentially chocolate and the other group was given cups, and like 80% of the people that were given cups did not want to trade it for chocolate, and 80% of the people that were given chocolate did not want to trade it for cups. Right? So we place more value upon the things that we own uh, than the things that we do not own.
but like now imagine like everyone, every single person on this planet wants to own. It wouldn't be possible. So that is why I'm like in between the lines. It's like okay, it's good if you can afford it, but like in general speaking, it's not possible for everyone. You have like an inequality already in itself,
Oh, there's enough
and how
property for
you
everyone to own property. I think that there
yeah.
is
So
enough
like,
housing.
who is going to own property? Most likely the rich people or the richer ones. Let's say it this way, or
Then
businesses.
socialism is not better. Nobody is owning anything, basically.
Sorry,
I'm saying socialism is not better. It's worse in terms of ownership.
if it's getting used the right way, is I think it's okay. But like I said, you need to have like a fundamental change in like as human beings itself, to be honest, because like you will always have somebody who's like, oh my god, I did more, so I deserve more, and I'm not working for the whole entire society. That is going to be the problem.
I
Yeah.
don't know. You have a point. You do have a
Well,
point. And by the way,
there
that's
is such a thing
part
as
of our beginning of discussion because we were talking about nationalism and we talked the problem for one problem of root for the problem of immigration is wars or the other countries are unfortunate
Mhm.
because of politics or economy
Also,
in general.
yeah,
So
also
I agree
capitalism.
with you. You have a point.
I mean,
But
war
no.
is the fundamental thing from capitalism. It's necessary, necessary. It cannot. Capitalism cannot prevent war. It's like not possible for it.
I don't know.
It cannot.
Um,
It cannot. No, it can't. It
it,
cannot.
it, it
It
seems
can
that
technically speaking.
the most peaceful societies are um, democratic societies that tend to be capitalistic according to the data, right? I don't know.
Yes.
I think what you
Like what?
see is, generally speaking, that
Like what
countries
to
that
say it
have
is.
what do
similar
you? I mean,
values
you
don't
can
go to war.
generalize this and say the NATO is like more peaceful than other places. Yeah, but why?
No, as I
Uh,
said, I think that it seems to me that countries that have similar values tend to not go to war. Right? You disagree with
But
that?
they are going to war. That's a problem. They are.
What do you mean? Like the NATO is involved into almost every single war on this planet. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
Exactly.
but
Like
That's
those
the
countries
point.
don't have the same
our
values,
the thing
right?
is you going to make your country is going to make money out of war. The whole point of capitalism, right? So if our weapon companies, I'm from a country where I don't know, it's one of the biggest weapon exports in all over the world. We're making tons of money with it, tons of money. I think we
But
are fourth.
basically,
Sure.
these
I don't know.
democratic countries are safe because they are making everybody miserable. No, not that's of course I'm not agreeing with this, but they are engaging in war. That's part of it.
I think that I'm not sure that the U.S. During the Cold War were involved in more wars than the Soviet Union, right? Like the Soviet Union was also involved in a tremendous amount of war in this period because it was a fight for ideology, and they tended to support political partners in different countries that aligned with them ideologically, right? I don't think it's that America or many of these countries were interested in the war. Like a lot of the time, the public in these countries um, voiced their opposition against the war. Um,
But the war happened, like Iraq or like
Afghanistan,
Afghanistan
Vietnam,
or Vietnam.
Cuba.
Yes, you can
So
count.
like every single war, America was involved as well. Why do you think America is the number one? It's not like cause they like such a great country. I lived in America for a year. It's not like that the people are hella smart in comparison to other people. No, they're not.
I think that the
The
reason
system is
why
also not better working than European systems, for example.
well,
It's like
America is a
they're
country
number
with a
one.
huge population that can rely on a lot of labor from a lot of different countries, right?
I mean, it's a war nation. It's like literally what America is. They
Well,
started the whole entire NATO thing. They started like defense mechanism against the
yeah.
Soviet Union. This is why every single European country is almost like in the NATO country.
You can see
They
almost
were.
any world power in any point of history like um, commit very similar acts and have very similar behavior, right? I don't think that America is very different from Great Britain, that was essentially the world power before America, right? Or Austria-Hungary, or Germany, or France. Like all of these different countries, try to expand their influence and have influence over smaller countries in the region, right? That is what you do as a world power. That is true for China
You're
as well,
talking
right?
about power working in a global size.
I
Not
don't
the
think that
next neighboring country, but globally.
like you can see also like the Soviet Union is similarly involved in their region of influence, right? Like what they're considered to be their neighbors and so on and so forth.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that this isn't a product of capitalism so much. It's far more of a product of just um, being a great power.
I don't
It's a
know. Part of it is because of capitalism. Because again, to have power in capitalism, you have to have a material capital, and of course, you have to have resources. And every war, a lot of these wars, if you look behind the scenes, it's oil or natural resource, or maybe uh, water. What do you call it? I don't know. But like what's happening now in Yemen, it's a war, no?
Sure,
mhm.
but
In your region.
it's it's not like the Soviet Union didn't want for resources, right? Like I think any of this world power has wanted for resources, regardless of like their ideological and economic system.
Say again, what do you mean?
Oh, like I think that the Soviet Union as well has been involved in many different military conflicts for essentially resources, right?
Yeah, of
Sure.
course it did.
Yeah.
The geopolitical interest.
But what are you trying to say with it?
No, I'm
Do you
saying
think
that
they're not
I always
falling?
think.
They're falling not internationally under like the capitalistic system, because they do as a country. They have to make profit out of something. And this is why they're supporting or going to war against us to fight for their own interests, right? That is like the whole thing. You cannot, like, even when society is like a different thing over there and it works differently, they're still falling under the capitalistic system in general speaking, right? They have to
You
make
would
profit.
say you would say that the Soviet Union is a capitalist system.
For the people who live there, no.
But
For the country itself,
What
because
do
it
you mean
has
by
to
the
make
capitalistic system?
they
I think it's completely untrue that like the Soviet Union is like a capitalist economy. Like there's no accumulation of wealth for anyone but the government. You know.
no, what
Yeah,
I'm
I can
trying to
see.
do for the people, no, it's not. For the country itself, it has to be like able to work on the market, right? There
Sure.
need to be income for, I don't know, for example, Russia is selling goods to other countries. This is like not a different thing that other countries are not doing who falling under capitalistic societies, right? So they have to make benefit or profit out of something.
Well,
And if it's like fighting for interest with the war against, I don't know, capitalistic societies or capitalistic countries like America, then that's their interest for whatever reason,
well,
right?
a lot
They
of the
have
time,
to make benefit.
a lot of the time, you know, these countries would be border economies. So it would be like, okay, so,
True, it's
you
true.
know, Russia goes to like Thailand or something, or the Soviet Union goes to Thailand and something and says, we need rubber, so we're going to buy rubber from you, right? Then it's like Thailand is given essentially rubles, right? They can use to buy, for example, Russian steel or coal, right? And
Mhm.
so they have a trade of resources, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, but like there's no capitalists, right? There's no bourgeoisie. There's no business owner or individuals that accumulate wealth. It's just like
That is
the
true.
government's
That is true. That's
accumulating
the
resources.
government. Yeah, but like the government needs to play on like the government needs to take place in like the role of like selling and getting stuff in. So like technically speaking, what like the capitalistic society as every single individual over here can do is doing the government over there. So, but they have to follow like the same guidelines, kinda, because like otherwise they wouldn't be there anymore.
Sure, but
Like I
like
said, I'm not talking about the people, right? I'm not talking about like, hey, it's a capitalistic society. No, it's not.
sure, but like if true communism was to not have trade of any kind, right, then true communism would be impossible.
I believe that the Soviet Russia had like some kind of internal currency. They call it like anti-money or something like that. So even with Soviet Russia, they still had some kind of weird proxy for money.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, they still had rubles. Yeah,
No, no, I mean it was a weird thing. So like I think the central whatever the central like maybe the central bank, but I think like the central like economic planning part of the government had this weird like anti-money stuff. I'd have to find
No,
it.
now or before you're talking.
Let's talk about Soviet Russia.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
but
are you, by the way? I don't know if you heard me because my mic isn't very good. But I asked, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
What were you saying, Natural?
Well,
On
I was just gonna ask because I wanted to go back to my question from earlier, which was essentially like, um, what do you believe would be like a good mix of like, let's say, socialism and capitalism, right? Yo,
I don't know. We need to. It's actually a hard question. I don't know, like completely to read, like how to reach this, because like some people are going to make a negative out of it anyways. Like it doesn't matter if you're rich, or if we're taxing the richest higher, or if whatever it is, right? Like there are always people who are going to be not okay with it. Like I said,
sure.
of course, but you're
like
talking
the
about the bigger scale.
hmm? Sorry.
I'm saying, of course, some people would not be okay with it, but you're talking about the bigger scale, where you're
Yeah, I
talking about
mean,
countries being affected.
yeah, I mean, capitalism tends to concentrate wealth in fewer and fewer hands, right? And it spreads
Yeah,
poverty. That's
yeah.
that's like the biggest problem we have, and I think we're going to see it already, all over the place and all over the world, even if it comes to like good working countries. I think you have like I don't know old people who cannot survive in Switzerland, France, and Norway when they're not doing something like
Sure, but like
after they stopped working.
you only have so many resources in society, right? And so like it's a question of how these resources are allocated. If
I don't
more of
think
your
he's saying that.
society is elderly, you're going to produce less, right?
Rob, I don't think
Yeah,
he's saying that. I think he's saying that there's an issue across the whole of the West to do with wealth inequality and wealth
Sure, but the
concentration.
issue is not capitalism though. You would also have this issue under a state planned um, system because
Possibly, yeah, yeah,
ultimately
possibly.
you are going to produce less no matter how you slice and dice it, right? And maybe there will be more state planning in the future where more and more of the economy like or the government might feel the need to step in and feel that the production in the society should be allocated more and more to essentials, right? Than today. But ultimately, there is probably going to be less of production output unless serious automation occurs.
yeah. I mean, automation is like would be a good idea to reach this point, but like at the same time, there are also people suffering under automations, right? They're going to be a suffer anyways. So let's put it this way. I think capitalism makes it worse and worse and worse. It's like I don't know, you have a problem and you're going to build a wall and you're trying to keep the problem as long as it takes like outside of your I don't know motions, and then it collapses at some point. That's capitalism, in my opinion. There's no
Similar
point of like
up into socialism. You can say the same thing.
I mean every single country has I don't know awesome thoughts, but I think capitalism is the thing is like if it's not working anymore, it doesn't work anymore. It's like
Well, I don't know. I think that capitalism is a fairly stable economic system. It seemed to be better at providing people with goods and services than socialism, right? That is something that Dao Xiangping from China, among others, pointed out that like if socialism were so great, it should be able to produce greater economic outcomes for society and for the workers, but it wasn't capable of doing that in any country, right? That is why China ultimately opened up. Um, so, like, um, I, I don't think capitalism is particularly doomed to fail. I think that if capitalism or a country becomes less capitalistic, it's probably because of a transition, right? Where, um, as I said earlier, like the less economic inequality you have in a country, um, the more probable it is that you will have a lot of redistribution, right, of resources. And so I think that you will have,
Mhm.
if society increasingly becomes more and more post scarcity, then I think that you're going to probably get to a point where socialism will be the economic outcome.
But it's seemingly going the
Yeah.
other way, though,
Um,
right?
Hmm?
It's going the other way though at the moment. It's going further away from post scarcity, if anything.
Yes, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
why I believe that things are going to become more capitalistic, because when you have scarcity, um, what tends to happen is that people care more about property. Like in rich countries, people care less about ownership, probably because they have ownership in abundance. But if you don't own a lot of things, you actually tend to care more about the things that you own, and you tend to want less redistribution. So that is something that is very interesting.
but
Um,
the free market was putting it in this situation, right? In the city I'm living in, for example, it's like in the area I'm living in, right? In like a 4 room apartment, you're going to pay 1.2 million euros, right? For an apartment. That is insane. It's like speculation for housing is like insane in the city I'm living in. This is not payable. That is not payable for young people. That is not payable for old people. That is in general not payable anymore.
sure. Well,
And the
you can
prices are
have.
going up and up and up and up and up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if like a person only owns like 3 buildings or whatever, or like only 3 apartments. It's like it's skyrocketing.
You can
And
commodify
it
and decommodify a product, and so like if things get bad enough, um, like the government might step in and decommodify um, things like housing. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be less of a like capitalistic economy. So, for example, I believe in the free market, but I also believe that housing should be regulated. I'm not sure it should be decommodified, but if it gets to a bad enough point, it could be. Like in Singapore, for example, there's actually no one that owns property. Property is just leased to you by the state for 100 years. It will be very
Yeah.
interesting because none of the contracts that are currently valid in Singapore have expired, and so there will probably be significant pushback where when these contracts start to expire and people are expected to hand their property back to the government, right? Um, so it will be very interested to see what happens then if either like the government is going to like recognize people's property rights and say that no, that's okay, you own the property, or if they're actually going to seize it from the citizens of Singapore.
I mean, it's a small country, right? So I don't know. Also has not a lot of like I
I
don't
think
know
they clamped down
future
on
if it comes to stuff like this. So they're running on a limit already. It's like
I
the
think
same
they
like sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, I think they've clamped down on immigration quite heavily in Singapore. So, which is like one way to deal with it. I mean, I think other countries like New Zealand have done this as well. I think Australia might be doing it soon, or has done it.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
I don't think that Singapore ever has had a lot of immigration, but it seems that a lot of the administration that's there now, like for example, the president of Singapore seems to be very pro immigration.
Let me have a look. I was talking to someone from Singapore about this recently. I think they did. I think they did a thing where like I think they were getting quite a lot of Filipinos, and then they kind of clamped down on it and stuff. Um, New Zealand and Australia are both. I think they both banned like foreign buyers of property because that's like
Mm.
because to me one of the big. It's not so much just immigration in isolation. A lot of it's like foreign ownership of properties and stuff. I think is a big problem, which is like an inherent side effect of globalism. You know, it's kind of one of the downsides of it. You're getting a lot of it.
I mean, it is a downside.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know
also,
if somebody's like
also
regulating the market from like
It
they're
does
not
look
even
like
living there, right? It's like
yeah.
it's like speculation.
it does look like you're right.
Sorry.
It looks like the Singapore accepted the most amount of immigration in 2008, and then they've accepted a lot less immigration since then.
Yeah, I can't remember what the specifics are, but they were telling me that like they sort of changed it.
Yeah.
mm,
So in 2008, they accepted 30,000 immigrants that year, and last year, or in 2022, they only accepted 4,500.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of the big problem in the UK right now is you got mass immigration, lots of foreign money, and no house building.
Yeah.
the UK, I think, reached the point of no return when it comes to immigration. Mm.
It's pretty bad here. Like it's very very bad.
Mhm.
It's like 780,000 people migrated to the UK last year. This is just ridiculous. It's like 1.3% of the population.
We
Yeah.
also 23% of our entire country is immigrated. It's like
How is
one
the laws
quarter.
in the UK? Because I think in my country you can't really profile someone as immigrants. Like it's just people that have Norwegian citizenship and people that don't have Norwegian citizenship. So can you still profile someone in the UK for being from
Sorry,
another country?
sorry, what do you mean by profile?
So, like, how are people statistically defined, right? So, as I said, like, I believe in my country, if you have um, citizenship, right, then you can't be defined as like non-Norwegian or something. Then you're defined as someone that has Norwegian citizenship.
So how would you? I mean, you'd have. I mean, you got work visas and stuff. That's I'm not really. Not, could you expand a little bit more?
Sure. So, like, I'm just wondering if, like, it is possible to distinguish between, like, someone that's ethnically English and someone that's not. I guess that's really the
Oh,
question.
it's yes. It's I mean, it's all self-reported. We do a because we don't have national ID cards in the UK. We have a census every 10 years, and then which is like self-reporting. So you just state what your own ethnicity is on it, and then we get like annual immigration figures from the immigration office and stuff. And then you would obviously your immigration status would be dependent on like what visa you've got and all that kind of stuff. Um, Although we did just that we did today actually have like a very strange thing where there was someone who was born in the UK who joined ISIS as a teenager, and then they tried to come back to the UK, and then they got their citizen stripped from them. Um, but they were like a naturalized Brit, and they said that because they because they had the right to Bangladeshi citizenship by default because of their grandparents, they were able to legally strip their citizenship, which is kind of crazy.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Well, I think that, like, if you've, so we've had, like, these cases in Norway where someone has, like, worked for ISIS, right? Women
Yeah,
that have gone and worked for ISIS. And then it's like they have had to be, like, permitted back to Norway like
Yeah.
despite going and work for ISIS, and I think that is kind of crazy. There should be a way to remove someone's citizenship at that point, where they
Well, there are.
go and work for
Yeah.
a
I mean,
hostile force.
the thing is there are international treaties too that prevent you from doing that. Um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if someone's born in that country, then it should be that country's problem to deal with. If they're an asylum seeker or something, or like something like that, then sure, kick them out. I don't really care.
Well, the thing is about like these international treaties and stuff like that is that like no one really enforces them, and like the whole international framework isn't really coherent anyway. Um, so I don't really have a lot of respect for it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of like governments being able to strip
Hmm?
citizenship off. I don't like the idea of governments being able to strip nationality of people who've been born in the country. Just kind of don't like it. I mean, just lock them
Well,
up for the
I
rest of
would say they don't really have the nationality anyway. Like, what nationality you're a part of is like part of your identity, right? Um, uh, like, if you go and work for a hostile force like ISIS, I would say that you don't really believe in Norwegian values, and you're not really a part of the Norwegian nation or society, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd agree. You don't agree with the values, but I would still say that it's like that's a homegrown problem. And to that country, you should just deal with that as a country. Um, by keeping them in prison and stuff like that. Is what I would do.
Keep them in prison?
Yeah, just like lock them up for like ridiculous amounts of time.
Sure, I don't know. Then I think we'd have to have a lot stricter, um, prison sentences and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Because, hmm,
I'm fine with that. I mean, we have had like I don't know. It's a bit of to be honest, what I would like in the UK, which is probably unlikely to happen anytime soon, is I would quite like to do the Japanese system where you're only allowed one passport. You're not allowed dual nationality. Um, I really really dislike dual nationality as as a concept, especially these days, because it's very much yeah, it's very much creates like a two-tier system within the UK around people who do have I'm just British. I'm like white British or whatever. So I've just got a British passport. Whereas that means I'm like a lower class citizen compared to someone who's got like dual nationality with like a European country or like America or something like that. You know. Um
What's the problem with that? What if
well
you're half British, half French, for example?
well I mean you just pick one. You're either British or you're French, just pick a passport. Because you get
What?
there's like especially like even more so with countries that we don't have extradition treaties with. Because there's probably been a problem in the UK where you'll have like say British Pakistanis they'll like commit crimes like quite horrible crimes like gang violence and stuff like that, and then they'll just flee to Pakistan, and then we have no extradition treaty with Pakistan, so that we can never bring them to justice. Like these kinds of things are just like you know
well, I'm fine really with people having dual citizenship. I just wish that um, tests for getting citizenship was harder, right? I
I
feel
mean do
like
you,
there's like a bare minimum of like requirements you should meet to a point where you're fairly assimilated into the society before you get citizenship.
do you have dual citizenship?
No.
Uh, I mean, I don't really like it because I kind of feel like you should be what's the point of a nation state? What's the point of a country if someone can just sort of like pick and choose what nationality they are, that suits them
But,
and all this sort of
but
stuff.
you don't change your nationality though, right? You just change like your citizenship, or you have multiple citizenship, right?
Yeah,
Citizenship is
yeah. I
still
mean,
the
I guess
same as nationality.
Yeah, so I'll be more clear. Just say like one passport is what I mean. Then, like I only think
Sure,
people should have the one passport.
sure.
Um,
I think, like, for
because
example, um, the vast majority of, for example, immigrants in Norway that have Norwegian citizenship are not of like Norwegian nationality. It's not like that's their cultural identity, right?
yeah, so what I mean is like yeah, citizenship, your passport. Like you shouldn't be allowed to have more than one passport just because of you know it encourages like unhelpful behavior to the country. Stuff like it's not uncommon for people to decide to leave the country when they hit like 20 years, and then like they can like the state can pay for all of their education and all this sort of stuff, and then when they hit like working age, they can just easily move to another country. Like I don't think that's a good thing because it's just a bad return on investment. I mean, maybe have national service. I don't know, something like
Sure.
that.
I guess it's much harder to ensure someone's loyalty to the country when they have dual citizenship, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and like I think that's why we would want someone to essentially would want the requirements to get citizenship in the first place to be harder, so that um, you can like secure to a certain extent for like people's loyalty to the country before you grant them the citizenship.
Well, a lot of people who have dual citizenship are usually born into it. Is the thing.
Sure, I don't think that you should be able to be born into dual citizenship, I guess.
Yeah, because that's how the majority of people with that have it in the UK. I think probably most countries as well.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, they do this. They do this in Japan. Um, it seems to work quite well there. I mean, I would be okay with the American way of doing it, where you tax all income. I kind of fine with that as well.
You tax all their income if they have dual citizenship.
Yeah, if you have an if you're an American citizen but you live in another country, you still have to pay tax to America even if you don't live in America.
Hmm.
I think South Korea does the same thing as well, but they've also got military service.
Sure.
So
Looks
these
like
are yeah.
the other Yapathon room is doing a lot better than y'all. They're yapping away.
Okay.
What's the holdup?
Oh, we're just having a chill conversation, I guess.
Oh, it's pretty dope.
By the way, hi mind. I believe we've spoken before.
Yeah, probably. I think both been on it quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hi mind. What's your hottest take?
What's my hottest take?
Yeah.
I think the dual citizenship one's like a pretty hot take, to be honest. Like, I'm not a lot of people not a lot of people like that. Usually because they benefit from it themselves a lot of the
Sure.
time.
But there also
Yeah,
can be negative sides on it. If you take two, it depends. If it comes to a certain amount of situations, I think you can. There can be negative sides as well. I have a friend of mine. She lives in the UK. She's like deciding, or she's not deciding at the moment because she thinks it's a bad idea to take the Chinese passport, for example. Because I think in the Western world, it's not really, I don't know, not really well seen.
yeah. I mean,
If you want
I quite
to, if you
yeah.
want to travel or stuff like this, it's like if it comes to some citizenship or passports.
I mean, you can always not show them your Chinese passport. You know.
I think if they're asking for it, you must For example, in America, they're checking everything when you want to go there. So it can be.
I'm not too. I mean, if you don't bring your Chinese passport with you, I don't think they can. I just don't think they'll
No,
find
no,
out.
no. You have to. Like, even to apply for visa, it's like if you stay longer than, I don't know, a certain amount of time, they're going to check you, background check you.
I said I don't think it works like that because if you're like dual Chinese American, then you just tell them that you're. Does China even allow dual citizenship? I'm not even sure if it does.
Like I said, I think it can be a negative thing as well. It really depends. It's like the sad thing that some passports are worth more than others, and that's, I don't know, a good thing but also a bad thing.
Why
I
is it
think
bad?
you
Yeah.
like, because like I said, it's like some passports. I don't know, if you are Norwegian and you want to go somewhere else, and they're going to see that you're Norwegian, you most likely have like an upper hand. It's like about whatever it is. It's like, hey, you have a better education system if you want to go. For example, let's pick a let's pick an extreme example. If you want to go to a third world country or whatever, then it's like a good thing for you, right? Because like you have the Norwegian citizenship, or you are Norwegian, so your passport is automatically worth more than others.
Well,
For
like
example, if you
it depends. Like it depends on like if you have entry without a visa and stuff like that. Like
true.
if you have a stronger passport, what that essentially does is it lets you like smoothly enter and leave places without trouble, right? But like
Mm.
that's also only if like that country has like treaties with the other country that you're going to. So there's probably many countries in Africa that I would need a visa to go to. Um, like
It
there's
was
only
only an
a.
example. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, don't pinpoint me on what I said, but it's like, I don't know. It was only a stupid example.
I have a question. I have a question. What do you guys think of the fact that like Chinese people are going to sexpat Ukraine or like Eastern Europe and they want to go get like hot white girls and shit, and they love the fact that like it's so depressing there that all of the Slavic guys are just druggies and junkies and they basically can't support a family, so all the Asians are swooping up the white girls. What do you guys think of that?
Didn't give a shit. Dude.
I'm not sure that's
Going
happening.
Well, what do you guys think of it? What's up,
I don't
Ox? You're
care.
Asian.
I don't care.
So what do you guys think of it?
Yeah, don't care.
Okay. What about the rest of you? The rest of you? No. Okay.
I think it's actually. Well, where did you hear this from?
What did I hear this one? It's all over. In Ukraine, they basically. You didn't know that?
I don't know. I think that the
They,
vast
they, they prepare
majority of
brides. In Ukraine, they prepare brides for Chinese men.
well, well, I think that the vast majority of Chinese men prefer Chinese women. That's at least what I saw when I watched that Asian Boss video, whether like Chinese men wanted to date foreigners or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Sure.
One thing I do dislike actually is quite a lot of you get a lot of nouveau riche Chinese, like young Chinese people in the city here. It's like a major city in the UK now. There's just all these young, very very wealthy Chinese students. Just like not a fan of because they're also like very very bad at integrating and stuff. They have no care or want to stay in the UK after they graduate either.
Do they speak English?
I don't think. I mean, they don't. I don't know. I think it's very mixed. I think a lot of them actually don't speak English. They just They pay a lot more for the tuition, so
So
the
how many
universities.
Ukrainian women would you say have been married off to Chinese men?
A lot.
A
At
lot.
least at least a few 100,000 until the war has finished. Let me see. Ukrainian women to Chinese men. See.
I mean, but the thing is Ukraine wasn't doing this just for.
Okay, the owner. Okay, listen. The owner of a matchmaking service that sets up Chinese men with European women says interest in Ukrainian women was dull during Russia's invasion.
So you, the, people marrying Ukrainian women for this kind of purpose is not like a Chinese thing. Like Ukraine was very well known before the invasion for.
Okay, think of it this. Okay, think of it this way. Okay, have mine. Think of it this way. They want Chinese money and support. So what they do is they have industries matchmaking specifically for the Chinese.
Yeah, well, I think they want money. I don't think it's necessarily Chinese.
No, I'm telling you. However, it's true. However, they do want money. But the point is, what do you guys think of the fact that they know that most Ukrainian and Russian and Slavic and Balkan dudes are just like druggies and junkies? And they know that. I mean, basically, Asians think that's a saving grace for them to get white genes.
I don't know, dude. I think Ukraine's been doing this a long time. They just want money. I don't think there's like a. Chinese people have a lot of money at the moment.
When you talk about East Europe, it's a well-known thing. It's not a new.
Are you like French or are you Eastern European? I can't tell.
I'm not Eastern. I'm
You're what?
Swiss.
Swiss. Okay, so German. Holy shit, that's a very interesting accent for someone who speaks German. Interesting.
There's multiple different, like Switzerland is not a German-speaking country. There's Italian-speaking people there. There's French-speaking people there in Switzerland.
What's their national language?
It doesn't know.
I think most people speak German, but like in the French part they speak French, in the Italian part they speak Italian.
Okay. So German. I'm just kidding. 60% of them speak German plus. Therefore, it's their national language. A majority makes the identity.
You're not one to decide. For languages are national language.
That is also true. You are a host to many interesting accents where you come from. Funny. Exceptions. Anyway. Where was I? Oh yeah, Arena. Fucking sick that Microsoft bought out Blizzard and now, like, the new CEO is going to basically be run of the mill. Whatever.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the thing. Downward trajectory for like the last fucking 10 years.
Yeah, natural perspective. What do you make of the Russian economy at the moment?
Me?
The Russian economy? I don't really know too much about it.
I think it's in danger.
They've got really good growth at the moment. So I was reading a Financial Times article the other day.
Yeah, it is in growth. Like, so what the Russians have done, and I know like Western countries are working to deter this, is that like when they no longer could export the West, they're just exporting more to other countries, and then some of these countries are reselling to the West, right? These goods. That is also the same way that they're getting microchips and stuff like that. Other countries buy microchips. The Russians have subsidiary companies in other countries buy the microchips in those countries and then export them to Russia. Like the Russians have more microchips now than they did at the beginning of the invasion. So yeah, no, it's very interesting. Many people thought, of course, that the sanctions would strangle Russia, but it doesn't seem like they lack for anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's probably quite worrying for countries like America and like Western Europe that these sanctions haven't really done what everyone was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just really surprised by it when I read it. I don't know how long it'll last for though, but
According to this article that I'm reading, marriage to foreigners, and this is foreigners in general, are only about 6% of the marriages in Ukraine.
Say again.
Only about 6% of marriages in Ukraine are marriages to foreigners, or like only about 6% of Ukrainians are married to foreigners. So yeah, doesn't seem to be a big problem. Like, I don't know.
I had the impression that before the war, for Ukrainian women to marry outside of Ukraine.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that is married to Ukrainian women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
think
this.
it's very common for like Russian and Ukrainian women and stuff like that. Many of the like Russian and maybe also Ukrainian men, I don't know, are like drunkards and stuff like that. The most common cause of death in Russia is to drink yourself to death. So for
yeah.
men, like after old age.
Sad.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, I think I have to go.
Yeah. I wish you a good day. Have a nice one.
Oh, you're leaving? Oh,
Yeah, see it.
Sorry.
And see it. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Have a good one.
Easy.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna head off too. Wish you guys a good day.
Okay.
Okay. To anyone that's watching, I'm gonna stop it here. Thanks for watching, and I wish you all a good day.